The Morning Huddle Construction Show is fortunate to have 5 sponsors for Season 7, helping us to spread the word and create positive change in the construction industry. And we want to give a shout out to each of them and thank them now. First is Katz Abosch. This is a middle market accounting firm with a deep specialization in construction, tax, audit, accounting, fantastic group of people. Next is Lawrence Law. This is a boutique law firm that works with contractors and helps them with their day-to-day legal needs, as well as all of their most significant legal challenges that they might run up against. Lawrence Law. Then we have Sandy Spring Bank, which is a regional bank in Maryland, with a group of people who really understand what the needs of construction businesses are and who partner with you to achieve your financial aims. So Sandy Spring Bank. And then we have Marsh McLennan Agency, bonding and insurance professionals who really just have unparalleled insight into the construction industry. They're the best in the business. And then lastly, we have Genesis AEC. And Genesis is a full service architecture, engineering, and construction management firm with a deep specialization in the life sciences industry. We also happen to have some of their folks help us with guest hosting from time to time. Stacy, what is happening? It's Morning Huddle time.
Good morning.
Good
How was your
morning.
week last week? Did you do
was,
anything special?
Last week was pretty darn good. I was just it's so funny. Here we advise businesses on, what how to grow and what to do as you grow, and all those types of things. And we have the exact same challenges, that our clients have. So we got to eat our own cooking and do what we say we were going to do and all that stuff. And our team is absolutely slammed. So I'll use this as just a call for anybody who is, interested in working with a lot of construction companies, helping them to be great. Who might be interested in working with Well-Built. We definitely are hiring. We are.
Good problem.
It is a good problem, but we're there's a lot of we're very fortunate. We have a lot of demand. There's a lot of opportunity to do a lot of great things in the market, but there, getting up to speed and doing what we do is not something that we can just snap our fingers and not unlike any of our clients. You can't you can't just hire a PM and have them be amazing day one, right? So it takes time.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We have the World of Work going on. It's a huge pilot program in Montgomery County. We're going to be speaking to 3,000 eighth graders about careers in construction next week.
Oh my God.
It should be interesting.
3,000 eighth graders.
There's so many employers on board. So I think they have 175 employers in the area that are turning out for this. Wow. So it should be interesting. And if it does well, they're going to double the size next year, which is pretty cool. They're doing it at Montgomery College campus.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. I mean, these are the types of things that they're happening all over the country. There is momentum. I've noticed just in the past couple of years, the intensity of the effort to teach our young people about the opportunities in the construction industry. It's been fantastic. So I'm hopeful that 10 years from now we're going to be finding ourselves with lots of great options. Yeah, lots of great options. So cool stuff.
Yep.
So we have a fun conversation coming up today with our really a bunch of friends of ours. These are people that we've known for that I've known for a long time. Stacey, I think you probably have too. All of these people. We've got John Fox, Megan Ross, and Eric Van Wy from Coakley Williams. Coakley Williams is a fantastic general contractor, great reputation in the DC market. And John Fox is a project executive with their group. Megan Ross is a project manager with the group, and Eric Van Wy is a superintendent with their group. And they're joining us today to talk about, some common sense stuff that they're doing and maybe some next level stuff that they're doing to create positive project outcomes, on their stuff. So it should be super informative and a lot of fun. So thank you, John, Megan, and Eric, for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Chad. It's a pleasure to be here. I guess I think we wanted to start off just by kind of talking a bit about ourselves and kind of our background. I started in the construction industry as a laborer at the age of 18. So Stacy, when you mentioned earlier that you're meeting with 3,000 eighth graders for an event, I mean that's amazing. That's something that really would have been interesting to me as a young student. So I started my career here as a laborer, went through the project engineer route, worked in our pre-construction department for a period of time, kind of worked here while I was going to college and worked my way up through the project management route. So now what I do here at Coakley Williams, I lead our independent school and higher education projects here in the Washington, D.C. area.
Cool.
Eric?
Awesome. Thank you, John. That's great background. Megan, tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Sure. So currently I'm a project manager, but I started here right out of Catholic U about 9 years ago this summer. And I started as a project engineer. After that, I was an assistant superintendent, actually the first that Coakley ever had that was a woman.
Cool.
And then I did that for about a year and a half, switched over to the APM track. And then I've been a PM ever since the day the world shut down for COVID. So
Is that right?
Yep. Over those 9 years, I've worked on about 90 opportunities, whether that's building a project, helping with a bid, helping with something from the safety perspective. And then just another thing I really enjoy is I'm heavily involved in the industry. That's where I met both of you with my ABC involvement, also on the board for WBC, and then I'm the GC partner liaison for ASA.
That's awesome. Yeah, you are definitely out and about.
Award-winning project manager of the year this year with ASA. Have to mention that because that's pretty impressive.
Thank you.
Let's go. Way to go, Megan. That's awesome. And Eric, tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Sure, love to. So I've been with Coakley for the last 15 years. I grew up around the construction industry in Pennsylvania. My father was a land surveyor. I grew up working for him. And then I moved to Florida and worked my way through the trades. I was an electrician for about a year and a half. Then I started framing houses. Then I got my contractor's license in Florida right before the economy tanked in 2008. And I moved to Maryland. I was dating my now wife. And I came to work for Coakley Williams. Really didn't know much about the commercial world. I was heavily versed in the residential world. And it was a good fit, and I came as a project engineer, and then I became an assistant superintendent. I realized that I learned really well with my hands, not so much in the classroom setting. And I'm an on the job learner, if you will. And then I became a superintendent, started running my own projects, and I got involved with ABC, which kind of connected us all through the leadership development program. I was in the class of 2019 with Megan, graduated platinum. And then
Let's go.
I'm still involved with ABC. I'm the membership chair. We have a strong membership in the Metro ABC chapter. And John and I do the scheduling presentation for the Superintendent Project Manager Academy.
Yep.
It's very well attended every year.
It is.
Every year.
Yep.
Sells out every year. Yeah.
And now that's kind of how we ended up here. Is after that, Stacy kind of reached out, and 5 months later, I guess, because that's back in November.
It's about how far out we book. Yeah, that sounds right.
That's good.
So tell us a little bit about the PM workshop that sells out every year. Why do you think it sells out every year? What's the big need for it?
It's a PM Super Academy, right? It's
Yes.
a combination. Yeah.
I mean, this is my personal opinion. I think there's a demand for education in the industry. There's a lot of people that come into the industry with a strong work ethic and just need some tools to learn. And that's one thing that ABC does really well is we train our professionals, because we are backed on the world of we get rewarded on how we earn, right? It's a merit shot philosophy. That's what makes ABC.
Mhm.
So when the standout employee sticks their hand up and says, I want to go to the next level, I want to be promoted, a lot of employers say, well, where do I send these employees? And
Mhm.
that's the best place to send them, because it's such a well-versed. I mean, you guys do a presentation there, I think, on marketing or a class.
Mhm.
So it's well-versed in it's a 2-day course, and it's well-versed in everything that we do here.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not the purpose of today's show, but I could go on and on about Coakley Williams' overall involvement in industry associations in the Metro Washington area, and particularly the people in this meeting. And really, honestly, Megan and Eric, a particular shout out for the two of you, because Megan, I know you were involved when you were a superintendent. Eric, you're a superintendent. There are not nearly enough field folks represented in ABC, and again, not the purpose for the show. We could get into like what
Sure.
motivated you to do that. And I know Megan, you're on the office side now, right, on the project manager side now, but when you were a super, I think that's when I met you. It was when you were
probably. I mean, it's something that I've been passionate about since I first started. I mean, I started Coakley about 9 years ago. Maybe 2 months in, I started coming to ABC events because I had a project exec at the time, Bill Simons, who said, we want you to get involved with industry and we want you to join committees.
Yeah.
So I did just that, and I've done it my entire career. It's been a parallel, and I think it's a big part of why I've been successful.
It's just a cultural expectation, and there are so many organizations, so many companies that I'll run into, and they're like, we want to get our people more involved. How do we get our people more involved? They're like, do you just set the expectation that they need to be involved?
Yeah.
Because if you don't drive that's important, if you don't talk about it, and you don't make space for it for your folks, then it's not going to happen. But when you, in your organization, obviously, Lynn Bennett is the past chair, and all these different people inside Coakley and Williams. I could keep going. I know there's a Greg Caracca and all that who've been involved over the years, who've made that time investment. They've really laid the path. And again, I'm going to pivot off of it, but obviously there's a ton of value and importance.
It's a good segue to some stuff I'm going to say later. So
good. All right. Well, then we'll keep it on tap. So as we've established, John, you're a project executive with Coakley and Williams, and you started in the field and worked your way through that whole thing. It's a fantastic success story. Obviously, long tenured people, just with the three of you here. What are in your focus? Remind me again. You said specifically on higher education.
Yeah, higher education and independent schools. Yep.
Higher education, independent schools, and I know at Coakley and Williams, you're also doing multifamily and science and tech and corporate interiors and so on and so on, right? And you do some government work and all that type of stuff. So the concepts that we're going to be talking about in terms of how to run a successful project, I'm betting are universal across all of those project types, across all of those sectors. But if at any point in time we're talking and you want to call out, specifically when we're doing corporate interiors or whatever else, if there's something that's unique to that space, be sure to call it out. But we're seeing in one of your in Eric's background this build mindset. I don't know which is the best of you to give us an overview. What is the build mindset at Coakley and Williams? Where did that come from? Provide some definition.
Sure. You want to talk to that, Eric?
Sure. So it really comes from our core values that our leadership team kind of went off site and put together probably over a decade ago, and maybe not quite that long, but it really comes down to three things. With the build mindset, we apply our expertise inventively, we earn trust perpetually, and we trade perspectives confidently. And the beauty of being a superintendent for years in the industry is we learn from our experience so we can apply our expertise inventively. Like, really, to finish a job well, we need to start a job well. And it's the foundation, the core principle of starting projects. is really setting them up for success, right? And then obviously being successful throughout the build process, and then having a happy customer at the end. But we really feel the whole build mindset incorporates that whole process, and it really needs to start from the beginning and from within, very much so. Like we talked about earlier, we set a culture of we expect our employees to really be involved with the industry as a whole, involved in the community, because we really want to encourage the full build mindset, because it's not just building buildings. We build careers, we build families, we build all sorts of things here at Coakley Williams.
Awesome.
If anybody wants to add on to that.
Yeah, I just think, the other thing, a lot of what we've been talking about lately is operational excellence, making sure that,
I believe John has frozen. It's all right.
I'm on the site internet, man.
we're getting back to the basics and just making sure that we're
John, you froze up
Can
for
you
a
see
second.
me now?
So I want to go back to, you said operational excellence has been a main theme. Pick back up on that thread.
Yeah, so operational excellence, just kind of getting back to the basics of, what makes an effective construction project? What do our clients expect of us on a project? And obviously that's a quality construction project. It's a good customer experience. What do our trade partners expect of us? And that's an organized and efficient construction project, because they all, everybody wants to work on a project that's well run. So we try to provide that for our clients as well as our subcontractor or trade partner base.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a lot of training initiatives that we do here at Coakley Williams Construction to make sure that our team members are trained up, and that we execute our projects effectively. So we want to touch on a couple of things that we do on a construction project, kind of the basics.
Hit us with them. High level. What are some of the basics that create that well-run project, that positive experience for your clients, for your subcontractors? What are some of the elements of the basics?
Well, it all starts with that pre-construction process, right? How do you set up a construction project for success? The site logistics plan, the budgeting for a project. And there's different aspects of this that the superintendent will take on. There's pieces that the project manager, Megan, would take on in a project. So Eric, you want to talk a bit about how you kind of set up your site logistics and what you're planning through when you're kicking off a project?
Yeah, sure. And really, it's a good site logistics plan is taking the project into consideration, because every project's unique and every site is unique to itself. Where we build in a lot of communities, we build on a lot of occupied campuses. So it really starts with meeting with the client and seeing what their expectations are, what their day-to-day is. And we need to build around them, and we're a guest in their house, if you will, in their neighborhood. So once we take all that into consideration, then we figure out what the best plan of attack is. How can we utilize the site to the best of our ability? How can we keep the neighborhood clean and the noise to a minimum? And then how can we build the project in the allotted time? How can we schedule our work? Because there's delivery times. We can and can't with pickup, drop off a lot of times with the schools. With the neighborhood, there's restrictions with noise, when we can work. DC can't work on a lot of holidays. So you need to put all that into the schedule and incorporate it all. So we still need to deliver the project at the end of the day in the allotted time that we have to build it. So there's not like a one clean path to site logistics.
Right.
The best advice in what I've learned from experiences, we need to start with the client first and ask them what's important to them, and then we go from there.
Yeah. I think it. Go ahead, Megan. Build on.
A lot of it is finding out their expectations and making sure we're managing them. Because, like Eric said, if we're working at a school and we know that the school's going to have pickup and drop off, their expectation is that all those kids are going to be safe 100% of the time. They're going to be able to do that operation as normal. So we need to properly manage our site to be able to make sure that those two things can happen.
Yep.
making sure that expectations are being met.
So setting it up for success starts with communication. Make sure that we're talking to our client to fully understand the expectation and issues that could potentially arise, and to compare that with reality and your experiences and all that stuff to develop a comprehensive plan. Keep going from there. Keep build on those basics. So now we've got our plan. Now what?
So for me, I've started on the lean journey a year and a half ago, just trying to figure out what lean construction really is. And I was thinking about it again this morning, and lean is really how can we most effectively build a project as quick as possible with the least amount of waste, right? Because you can get really big on lean or simplify it, and simplified is, right, take away the waste. And how can we effectively help our trade partners help us, but help them to be successful? Because ultimately we want everybody on the project to be successful, including our trade partners. So then I've incorporated most recently what I like. The big part of lean is the morning huddle, to gather all my foremen up in the morning and talk about what's the plan for today, what's the plan for tomorrow, what's the look ahead schedule look like, what's the weather look like. But it's just that daily morning touch has become so effective for me on how to drive a project, and not push a project, but drive a project to success and really help us to achieve the milestones, because we're talking about what's coming. What are the big overarching milestones that we need to hit? Steel, concrete being placed, steel is coming at a certain date, so we need to be ready for it. Dry in, electrical gear, things like that. And with the morning huddle, it just ties into this so well that it really is effective on driving the schedule to a successful completion.
So, you know what's funny? I have to indulge in this for 30 seconds. Stacy, yell at me if I go past it. But I've in my work at WellBuild, I've worked with all these different companies with crazy business strategy wins, and opening up a new office, breaking a new geography open, figuring out how to sell the business or acquire business, all the craziest stuff. The number one thing that I have emails like, oh my God, this was life-changing, was freaking establishing a morning huddle. Yep. It is the number one thing that people send me. I'm like, really, man? Like, I've done so many crazier things for you than the morning huddle. They're like, this huddle has changed our lives. And I'm like, sure. Yeah, I know. I know it has. It's so simple. It's so impactful. And it really it's about planning, communication. Let's resolve stuff before we get there. And I appreciate you sharing that. Yeah.
It's that opportunity for everybody to buy into it too. Like, you're not just being told something, it's a collaborative experience.
Yep. So keep building. So we've got a fantastic project plan and great communication with our client and stakeholders. Now we've got a daily plan that keeps us on track and moving and eliminates waste and spots opportunities for efficiency. Now where are we building, on those basics?
I think Megan should talk a little bit about our quality control program.
Yep. So while Eric's dealing with the here and now and the very near future, I think it's important in my role as the PM to be looking, anywhere from 6 weeks to 90 days to 180 days out.
Right. Depends on the size of the project and the stage of the project, right?
And I need to be able to make sure that we're setting us up for success by, you almost have to work backwards to get ahead. Feels like a weird concept, but something we do with our quality control and our material tracking is, we take that schedule that we built that meets those deadlines, and we'll work backwards from the date we need that on site all the way back to the day that we need it submitted, to the day that we need it awarded. And we use that as our roadmap to make sure that we're getting materials on site so that they can build in the field when they need them. Aside from just tracking the materials, vetting that submittal and making sure it's correct the first time, it's challenging. I mean, there's a lot of people that have not had to look at a submittal before, especially a lot of the times this role falls into the project engineer's court. So again, going back to what John said about training our people and making sure they're understanding what they're looking at, what they need to be looking for, doing that quality on the submittal, and then carrying that into our pre-construction meeting with the subcontractor and trade partner, all the way into the 3-phase, our QC program, follows the Army Corps' three-phase process. So taking that from the quality of the submittal all the way to the initial and the prep meetings and the follow-up meetings is incredibly important, and it helps do things right the first time.
And so all of this to me kind of contributes to getting a project. If you talk about getting it right the first time, a lot of that has to do with schedule. When I see the number one reason that projects get knocked off schedule is we failed to plan and probably got it wrong at some point along the way, and now we're all waiting with our hands in our pockets, or we got to tear something out and we got to redo it. So talk about the role of I don't know, schedule. Somebody hit on what you do to build and drive schedules.
Eric,
John, you want to go first?
John?
Yeah, sure. So obviously, Chad, it all starts with kind of creating the baseline. And on our team, it's primarily a superintendent that's putting together the baseline. The PM and the rest of the project team members may have some input. Of course, we're collecting input from our trade partners. So putting together that realistic construction schedule for a project. And then, of course, as we move along in a project, we're always looking for opportunities to improve that schedule. We sit in these subcontractor coordination meetings with our trade partners. We hear a lot of interesting ideas and thoughtful input from the tradespeople that we're working with. So we take that information, we incorporate it, we make adjustments to the schedule, and we seek opportunities to improve those. You talked a bit about earlier about developing the plan, and I think one other kind of critical component is like, how do we communicate the plan to everybody that's involved in the project? So the schedule's a piece of it, but we like to use a couple of different tools to kind of communicate the construction plan to our owners internally, to our own project team, our trades partners. Because if we could have an excellent plan put together, but if everybody doesn't understand it, it doesn't help us. So you may find, if you attend one of our trade coordination meetings, you may find Eric giving almost a PowerPoint presentation, visuals. So he may be doing sketches and things to track, production on concrete pours or steel erection and that type of thing, and using diagrams so we can have productive discussions with our foremans about, what's the plan approach for the project, the sequence, where are we going to be working next. We just find that it's really good to do things visually rather than sitting down and looking at a set of meeting minutes. So Eric, I don't know if you have anything further to add to that.
Yeah, sure. Through the lean journey, we've also started incorporating pool planning. We pool plan 2 milestones, and then that helps us relay the plan and get the trade partner input, because it doesn't really work if we are trying to tell our trade partners when they need to have a action complete. But if they can't complete it by then, it doesn't do anybody any good. The handoff is key on who's coming next. But the other key piece, kind of what John was saying, is we like to utilize 3D scheduling so we can put the BIM model up. So a lot of times that's the light bulb for a trade partner. They can see it coming. It's totally different picture when you see it in 3D. We've started to incorporate a little bit of 4D to where we can actually start putting pieces in with the 3D model into the schedule. And then again, it's what does the weekly plan look like, so we can take the master schedule and break it down into smaller bit pieces for 2-week, 3-week, 6-week, 8-week look aheads, assign tasks, and then incorporate the pool plan into that look ahead schedule that we then distribute and share with the trade partners in the morning huddle, in our weekly coordination meeting with project managers, foremen. Then again, it's constant communication. I mean, I can't say that enough.
Yeah.
That constantly communicating, and again, material tracking. Megan touched on it earlier that we can't put something in place if it's not here or if it's not going to be here. So we want to constantly be talking to our trade partners about material, long lead items, tracking it, is it still on track? Because we all know over the last handful of years that we've dealt with that challenge of logistically getting stuff here, and all of a sudden everything's on track, and then all of a sudden one day it's not on track. So the sooner we know how to manage that situation, the better we can manage that, because we still have to finish the project on time. Do we need to
That's right.
change a product because the product's not available anymore? Do we need to involve the design team, the owner, and start asking those questions and having that conversation? Because at the end of the day, it's a team effort, and that's really the way we approach it. It's all a team: the design team, the owner, the trade partners, and us. It takes all of us to work together as a team to deliver the project to the owner.
Awesome. So I have an observation, and then I have a couple of follow-on questions. So in my work with general contractors and construction managers, one of the things that a common thread of top performing teams is that they create a collaborative environment that during the construction phase particularly is really centered around the superintendent. The superintendent is the hub of getting the thing built. And I see so many project teams where the superintendent and project manager dynamic is frayed, and the superintendent is sort of almost disengaged in the process. Like you got a major problem if the person that is going to be responsible for driving work in place is, frustrated or disengaged with their own staff on a project. And I really do believe that it starts with recognizing that the superintendent has got to be the one to drive construction and putting them at the center of it. It really does sound like that's how you're building it. It is a collaborative environment. Everybody's got a key role to play. But what you said, John, and this is no small thing, is that when you talk about, the schedule, you immediately said, the driver of the schedule, the person that we look to drive that, to build that schedule and to put together a realistic construction plan is the superintendent. And by engaging the superintendent in having this be his or her plan from the start makes a huge difference. And that's just an observation. I have a few questions because I got to get into the nitty gritty of some of this stuff with you. All this communication sounds wonderful. I'm a huge fan. I'm a big believer in that it all does start and end with communication. Do you guys have too many meetings?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll say yes. I think that a meeting can be really effective if it's short and you have a good agenda and you can address the topics. We have our guy Jack, who's our construction technology manager, and one thing that he kind of preaches is who does what by when. And if you're following that kind of mantra with your meetings, they can be effective. If you're on a meeting just to talk about a meeting, to talk about another meeting, like you don't need that many meetings. You just need to be able to answer the questions you need to keep moving. And having formal meetings is great to a point, but a meeting could also be me and Eric walking on a site, doing a walk around, talking about what's going on for the day. That's still a meeting, but it's not a formal sit down Teams meeting.
Yeah,
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, John.
I was just saying another thing that we like to do kind of internally are check-ins. So Megan and I, we have a check-in once a week. So it's just an opportunity for she and I, if we haven't caught up during the course of the week, we set aside either 30 minutes or an hour. We can kind of get together on things that she and I need to work through. Eric and I may have a more casual discussion. He and I probably chat most mornings, just a quick discussion heading down the road and catching up on what's happening on the job site.
Yeah, these are so the beauty of the morning huddle, going back to that, which is a meeting. The beauty of the morning huddle is everybody is 100% clear about the purpose. We are here to decide what is going to happen today and also make sure that we've got a game plan looking ahead to tomorrow, right? Like it's just a very simple, we know what we all know why we're here. And Megan's point of who does what by when, it is the meeting, right? That it is literally like today I'm working on here. This is where I'm going to be. This is where I need to be. And so, one of the other things that just naturally happens is if any of those things conflict, we have an opportunity to resolve those conflicts and, get people clear so that they're very good at that. There are a lot of meetings that I find we have in this industry because you're supposed to have them, but we've forgotten the purpose. And, I am I am known for like standing up in the middle of those meetings and being like, when you guys figure out what the hell we're doing here, please call me back in, because I literally, I think we're just reading a document right now. Like, I don't know what we're here for. In other words, I make it weird, but I make it weird on purpose to drive change, to make people go like, oh, what? So one of my favorite pieces of advice is like, take stock of all the meetings you're doing once a year, just blow them all up. Once a year, eliminate every meeting, and then reset with what meetings do we absolutely have to have. Because in these cultures of communication, it's a wonderful thing. One trap in a culture of high communication is that we just finding ourselves plugging, oh, we need a meeting for this. Let's do meeting. We should do a weekly meeting on this. Next thing you know, you're spending literally all your time in meetings. You can't keep up with emails. You're not able to make those individual calls or go and visit the site or whatever else. So what I'm hearing is that you're not completely immune to that problem. Yeah. Right. But that there are some basic principles that you're going back to, this who does what by when.
Yeah. And I like to do like the 30 minutes or it's free mantra for my meetings. Like if your meeting is taking more than 30 minutes, you're spending too much time meeting, and it's more just people hanging out, or people are talking about something that's not even relevant to your meeting. Like, that's such a great, I love that. You can effectively get your owner's meeting done in 30 minutes when your project's on track.
One of the key components to having an efficient meeting is if there's a bunch of data that we need to review it before the meeting.
Yeah.
Review it before the meeting. Go through those spreadsheets. Make sure that you understand. So when you show up to the meeting, you don't need somebody to walk you through the data. You just show up to the meeting and you say, hey, 2 questions about this data. Can you tell me what's going on here and what's going on there? Okay, great. That helps. That type of stuff. True. All right. Next question. Do you have, you clearly have a vision for what a successful project looks like. And I've, as much as I'd love to go through every aspect of it, and speaking of our time limitations, right, we've got a show that we got to end here in about 10 minutes or less. And so I'm not going to get through every aspect of that. But do you have standard operating documented SOPs for all of this stuff? Like, do you have documented tools that you're following, SOPs for your vision here?
We do. We have standard operating procedures, and it's always a work in progress, Chad, because softwares, procedures, things change. So it's a constant work in progress. But we actually just went through the process of kind of overhauling our standard operating procedures, and we like to do that at the committee level. So we'll seek input from different parties. We may have several PMs that are involved in that process, project engineers, superintendent. So we'll have a couple different team members that participate in that committee. So we're getting view from different team members, and we have our standard operating procedures. They're all posted on our Microsoft Teams site, what we call the Loop. So it's an internal web page that the team members can access.
Awesome. I'm always fascinated by companies that are consistent and following a plan and driving a constantly positive result. How much of that is by following the manual versus how much of that is cultural? And I think there's a harmony between those two things. Clearly you're making an effort to bring things like this build mindset and your core values and those types of elements that if we're doing it right, our people are thinking the right stuff and likely to act the right way. And we have SOPs so that we have something to train against and have expectations for. But there is nothing ever quite goes by the book, and that's a part of the reality in construction.
Yeah, that's true. And that's why we have to come together occasionally. And maybe there is a more efficient way to do things. And we want our team members to operate as efficiently as possible. It makes their lives easier. It helps us be more productive. So we're always looking for ways to improve our operating procedures, or even if it's new technology. I know we're constantly evaluating technology that's out in the marketplace, things that we can potentially use. And Megan mentioned our construction technology manager, Jack, earlier. So we kind of have a system in place for evaluating technology and trying to make decisions about what makes sense for our business.
Awesome.
And I'll add to what John said, because a lot about that is it informs our customer experience too. Like if we're using the right tools, we're able to put together a good project, and it makes our customers' experience that much greater as well.
Agreed.
Because we're delivering it on time, the quality is there, and it's usually within their budget.
So we've talked a lot about the basics. I know that you guys also have some, going back to communication, some rules for communication or some sort of guiding principles for communication. Talk about, in addition to this, I love who does what by when as a rule for communication in meetings. What are some of the other things that you found as guiding principles for effective communication in your business?
So I think one thing that Eric mentioned earlier was trading perspectives and kind of earning trust. So I think it's important to be as transparent as possible. So we talked a little bit earlier about communicating the plan. And, Eric used the example of the equipment that isn't arriving on time. So that's the type of thing that the entire project stakeholders should be aware of, including the owner, the subcontractor trade partners that we're working with, quality control stats. Those are things that we like to share with our clients, subcontractors as well. So everyone can see that the quality control program is being executed. We want to be transparent about those things. So that's important for us when we're communicating, is being as transparent as possible and building that trust with our partners.
It's like one of the reasons why we use Procore for so much of our project management. We really bought into Procore. Basically, when I started here, I was a Procore guinea pig and was running projects in 2 different systems so we could figure out how to make it work the way we wanted it. But it's great because it gives everybody on the project the information at their fingertips. By not hiding all of the other contractors' submittals, like there's no reason to not share information that's connected to your project, like the work you're doing. So by using all these tools and making sure that everybody has access to the latest and greatest info, it further communicates that plan and gives them the opportunity to look into everything and have that full piece of information.
One of the interesting things, in this world of so many different means of communication is that I've found is I need to find out how somebody likes to communicate the best.
Mm-hmm.
Do they like it via text? Do they like it via Teams chat? Do they like it via email? Do they like it via Procore? Or do they like a phone call? What works best for the team? And every project team is different with every trade partner. Every project manager has a different means of communication. So it's really establishing that setup per the team and per individual in order to make it flow. And ultimately, we want the communication to happen and it actually work.
That's awesome. As we get close to wrapping here, I want to toss it over to Stacy. Questions that you have either from the audience or on your own accord.
I just wanted to overall, what makes the best customer experience or the best PM, the best superintendent in your opinion?
So customer experience.
Oh, shucks. We lost John.
I think one thing I was thinking about.
Hate when that happens. It's a problem with running live. It just kind of is what it is. I'll toss that question to Megan here.
I can do PM first. A lot of it just has to do with making sure you're talking to your team. If you want to move up, you've got to replace the people, and you got to take your brain and put it into their brain so they know how to fill the shoes in your role that you're in. So for me, the best PMs are the ones that are there to help you. You're not afraid to work with them. They offer help, and they don't feel like a boss. Like they feel like somebody you can go talk to. My very first PM here when I started was not the best, but I had a really great super. So I ended up going in that super path because I had a great mentor from the super. And I really wanted to learn how to build a building before I had to deal with the money or the client's expectations. So to me, like that best PM is just someone that's easily approachable, organized is a huge piece of it, and just can keep their eyes ahead of where they're currently at.
I love it, Megan. I think I couldn't agree more. I think there's a tendency from a lot of the project managers that I've met over the course of time for those people sometimes to, I don't want to, they have kind of like a bravado or right, a kind of that makes them unapproachable and kind of kills the whole communication partnership vibe. Yeah. And you know, that I think starting with that is really wise. And then obviously, right, like exactly like you said, you know, like have your stuff together. You know, make sure that you right, make sure. Eric, what makes a fantastic super, to continue on Stacy's?
I think the superintendent needs to really enjoy problem solving, because every day there's a new challenge to solve. Right, there's a new problem that comes up, and if the superintendent doesn't really truly enjoy that, is not passionate about it, it just becomes a really stressful situation every day of life, because there's usually we have to back up and punt, if you will, or back up and revise the plan for whatever may happen. And for me, I truly enjoy that. I took a minute for me to embrace it and really see that I actually enjoyed it, and to truly understand that it's not, all problems aren't bad. They're just problems for us to solve. It's construction. And I personally really enjoy it.
That's wonderful advice. I think I was recently having a conversation with a good friend of mine who said, man, I hate curveballs. And I said, I love them. I'm like a curveball fiend.
You do.
There's something wrong with me. Like you know, when you know, there's almost like if a guest doesn't show up on the huddle, I'm like, sweet, we get to improvise. Let's have fun. You know, this will be a good time.
Well, I'm panicking, by the way, because I'm very much a planner.
And I think you're right, Eric. I think you have to view those as opportunities. You have to view them as something to, you know, roll up your sleeves and be like, all right, let's go. Let's tackle it. You know, and if you can't have a positive attitude about it, it is going to be a painful job. Yeah. John, circling back to the, you know, we ask your question again, Stacy, specifically related to client experience.
Client expectations, what's so satisfying about working with Coakley Williams?
Meeting client expectations.
Yeah. So Chad, I was trying to chime in earlier, and sorry, I've had some connection issues that keeps dropping off, but if you remember a while back, you did an emerging leaders program for us. Do you, and this was maybe 2015, 2016 timeframe.
I remember. Yep.
And you did a session with us on customer service that really stuck with me. And you did this whole setup, and you were talking about large companies, and you posed the question, what do these large companies have in common? And you talked a bit about Disney. And you talked about like kind of the utility tunnel system that they have on the Disney campus, and how Disney kind of shapes the customer experience, right? And they're maneuvering, you know, food and trash and all the cast members and stuff underneath the Disney World resort. And I was thinking, how great would it be to create that kind of experience for a construction project?
Yeah.
So we've been fine tuning this over the years, but I always kind of think back to that session that you had about creating what does the ideal customer experience look like? And it's different for every project. It's different for every construction company, every client. But I always enter a project thinking like, what does the ideal customer experience look like for this particular client? So that I wanted to thank you for that.
No.
I was hoping for the opportunity to thank you.
That's awesome, John. Thanks, man. That's something that wasn't a morning huddle. I finally got to thank you for something that wasn't. Thank you. That's awesome. Yeah, the Disney has this really fantastic premise, which is that, you know, anything that happens, you know, in front of the client is on stage. Right. Anything that happens in front of the customer's on stage. So we want to make sure backstage stays backstage, right? Like you don't want to see Minnie Mouse smoking a cigarette. Right.
Right.
So, that's the premise. Great stuff, guys. Thank you so much for joining. Congratulations on building this, growing, wonderful organization. I'm happy to have played some role in it over the course of the years, and look forward to staying in touch with you guys and continuing to build our friendship. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Have a good day, guys.
All right, Stace, what do we have next week?
So next week we have Ryan Englund, author from Core Matters, and he's going to talk about his latest book about building stronger teams, hiring quicker, faster. So we'll see.
This is huge. I mean, I if I had $1 each week for how many clients are struggling with a hire every week, I would have, probably $50-$60, right? Like just from that experience, it's a very, very common need. And to talk about how we do it more efficiently, how we hire faster, how do we source faster, and how do we get people on board and productive quickly. I'm excited.
Yeah.
All right. What do you have
right.
going on, Stace? Anything going on you want to plug?
I'll be at ABC Virginia in a couple weeks talking to the young professionals group about social media and the importance of personal branding. So I'm excited about that.
Nice.
And, always looking for websites, and if you need help with social media channels or your marketing, yeah, I'm here.
Beautiful. Thank you, Stace. Yeah, I'm running I'm doing the keynote for the ABC Regional Summit here in Maryland on Thursday. I'll be talking about downsizing versus right sizing.
Oh, I saw that. That was cool.
Yeah, it'll be kind of confronting some of the hard realities facing some contractors. It all depends. It all depends on where you are, man, and what you build. But some folks are struggling right now, and some folks are thinking about a down 25, and other folks are definitely not. And the talk will appeal to both, but definitely helping companies to confront the hard realities of what it looks like when your math isn't mathing for your business.
Yeah.
So
that sounds fun. I wish I could be there.
Well, I don't know if I doubt it'll be recorded, but I'm just ask me and I'll walk you through it over.
We can do a recap next.
That's it. That sounds perfect. All right, Stace. Thanks so much.
So,
See everybody soon.